All right, cool. Hello, everybody. It's what is it? Friday or Thursday, the 5th of September,
For
depending
us,
on where
it's
you
Thursday.
are. For you, it's Thursday. Yes, it depends for where you are in the world. And this is the backdrop bi-weekly meeting for UX and design matters. Before we start the meeting, with its meeting, we introduce ourselves shortly. So I'll start with myself. I'm Greg. I'm joining from Greece now, usually in Melbourne. I've been away for a few months, and I'm trying to just keep up with the changes and what's been going on in the community and the issue. I'll nominate next Easy.
Oh, hi, I'm from Vancouver. I'm new to Backdrop, and I've been doing stuff with Drupal for about 15 years and a bit of WordPress along the way.
Yeah,
I'll go next.
go with it.
I'll just go next. I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim on the internet. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. We have a beautiful fall day here and nothing special to report. Most of my Backdrop activity right now has just been behind the scenes, communicating with people and answering questions. Haven't had a lot of time to do too much. Joseph, are you available?
Yeah, hi, I'm Joseph. I just joined the call. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and yeah, just checking to see what's going on.
Sure. So we don't have a real structured agenda for today. This is our bi-weekly UX design meeting, which means we normally use these meetings to focus on UX issues, to talk about how to solve them in the issue queue, mostly for core, although other things can come up. Did anybody bring, because we have Gregory here, we're in a good position to just sort of dive in, and sort of what we do sometimes in this case is just sort of look for some of the UX issues that are floating at the top of the core issue queue and talk about those, see if there's anything we can do to unstick them. Does anybody else bring anything else in particular that they wanted to talk about at this meeting? That would be primarily Joseph or Izzy. Either of you, did you bring anything in particular, or you just want to go along for the ride?
I'm okay with seeing where it goes.
Okay.
I didn't have anything in particular.
Okay. Greg, did you have a particular issue lined up yet, or should we?
Yeah, I started working on a couple of issues.
Okay.
As you say, I just filtered the issue queue by brackety UX, and I'm going by what's most recently updated. Maybe it's unfair because most of the issues are at the top are my issues, but this is what I see at the top now. So maybe
okay.
we'll start going one by one. So the first issue that I see in the queue is number 4108. And that's titled "Make the make this block reusable checkbox has no value once the block is made reusable." So what happens is when you create a custom, this is an old issue, actually was raised back in October 2019, and we didn't have activity. The reason why the spark was lit again was because people started discussing in the Zulip chat about the blocks listing page and how you create reusable blocks there. So one of the UX pain points that I noticed early on was that there's a checkbox when you create a custom text block that says make this block reusable. And it's not quite obvious what that means unless you've done that before. And it's especially confusing for people coming from Drupal 8 and beyond, because it works kind of differently that way. So we have a block listing page that only lists the reusable blocks. Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, so if you scroll, actually, Tim, it might help if we started a demo sandbox just to show what the current situation is.
Okay. And can we go on a quick tangent while we're doing this?
Sure.
Greg, you said that you can't install can we not install themes? That's in a Sandbox, GitHub Sandbox sites. Is that right?
No, the GitHub, the PR sandboxes work fine.
Well,
It's these demo sandboxes
Okay.
that were not working for me.
at Backdrop Live, I installed modules into these.
So maybe something changed. I
Could be.
did file a pull request against, because this still fires up the 1.25.2, I think.
Okay.
So this has not been updated, and usually we wait a couple of weeks after the minor release and then we update it. So before we do that, I filed a pull request and I pinged IndigoZilla and Nate to review it in order to update the tugboat configuration for these demo sandboxes with some changes that went in the tugboat sandboxes for the PRs to bring them up to speed. But yeah, if it's fixed, it's fixed. Cool. But it was a problem a few weeks back.
Definitely at Backdrop Live. Jen and I used these sandboxes for our presentations, and we installed a bunch of modules.
Yeah, there were some issues with the tugboat service, like they had some problems with
Okay.
the images, so maybe it was because of that.
Sure.
So yeah, so if you go to any layout and try to add a custom block, and click the custom block there.
Yep.
So that's the checkbox there right below the yep, that's the one. So once you click that, actually there's another pet peeve of mine. So if you click that and click save as you are.
Well, I have to
Yeah.
give it a title, don't I?
No, don't.
Oh,
Because if you add it directly, you will see that the admin label is required, but it
Okay.
is only required for reusable blocks. So you will see that it has no required indicator, and that's because you will see that as you tick and untick the checkbox, we use states to expand the admin label. So the admin label for non-reusable custom blocks is not required, but once you make a block reusable, it is required. However, states, which is what controls the flipping there,
mhm.
cannot on the fly make fields reusable. It can add the asterisk, like the visual bit of it, but it
Mhm.
cannot actually on the fly put validation there, form validation, or something like that. I can't remember. We have an issue for that. Anyway, but if you give it an admin label, just call it custom reusable block or whatever.
Yeah, you know, this business of the admin label has caught me out as I've been doing other things, because it's almost like a redundancy that's here, where you've got the display, the title, and then this admin label. And I ran into trouble with the image block module because I was treating the top part of the screen, ignoring the bottom part, and I ended up creating duplicates of or dependent blocks. And I realized just the other day, I bet you I need to open the admin label because it doesn't have a checkbox to make blocks reusable, but it does treat blocks as reusable.
It's reusable.
So it's kind of a hidden feature, and it's triggered by this admin label. So I've been kind of grasping this, but it seems to me it's almost a hidden part of the UI that needs to be elucidated a little better.
Yeah. Well, if you save the box now, Tim, you will see there's a few UX problems. So if you try to edit it again now, you'll see now that the block content thing is required. See how the block content is required, but you left it empty. So that's another thing that cannot be required on the fly, right? So if you ignore that and close this dialog box for a moment, and on another tab, open, yeah, and there you go. See, it complains now. But if you had an existing block where it had content already, you wouldn't notice this. It's just that we did it in an unorthodox way. We omitted everything here. We just updated, and there was, I mean, the validation could be better here. But one thing before you close this dialog to point out is that my pet peeve is that thing right below the block content. So now the make this block reusable checkbox is disabled, is ticked but is disabled, because once you've converted a block to a reusable block, you cannot undo it. You cannot undo this action, right? And there's no indication of that whatsoever anywhere in the UI.
Okay.
Also, like there's no point, like the checkbox serves no purpose there. It indicates a status, a state. So it should be some sort of messaging there or what have you. So the solution I'm proposing, if you go back to the issue and look at the screenshots,
This one?
there should be one before that and before that. Yep. So this is the one. So what I'm proposing is once you've made a block reusable, just get rid of the whole checkbox and convert that into a message that says this block is reusable. Be careful, because if you update it here, you'll update it everywhere, right? Plus also so actually what I've changed, you'll see later there, the help text there mentions two things. First thing, it says that this option may not be unchecked once enabled, and then the other one, it points you and it tells you that once this is a reusable block, you can manage it from the custom blocks page. So I've retained all that, right? So if you scroll, but it's a status rather than a checkbox now, and to me, there's no point to have a checkbox if you cannot do anything with it, right? So I thought that, yeah.
Status show up every time that you open this block?
Any reusable block, once it's made reusable, it will show every time.
Okay. Is that a common use of status messages, or do they usually show up just once?
No, we have other places where they show permanently. And
Okay.
this is not a proper status message, it's actually a field, plain text field, not an input field, that is mimicking the style of the checkbox. It's basically help text. And you can tell that because it doesn't have the X button that the other messages have in order to be dismissed, right? The purpose of this is that to communicate mainly the bold, the text that is in bold, like be careful, if you update things here, they're going to be updated everywhere this block is being used, right? So then if you scroll to the next screenshot, just to compare side by side. Okay, so I've added the same text that says basically be careful, if you update things, they're going to be updated everywhere. I've added that into the block listing, and also I've added it if you edit its individual block there. So if you happen to come directly to a page where you edit the blocks without going through the listing first, there's no way that you can miss that if you edit a block, it's going to be updated in multiple places or whatever it applies, right? So this is basically adding more or less the same wording, the same message to a few places where people need to be aware that you're updating more than one place.
Right.
And then if you scroll further down, there's another screenshot, side by side screenshot. This is in the delete before and after when you try to delete reusable blocks. Previously, it was just, hey, do you want to delete it? Now it says, and I have plans for that. I like for this to be appropriate. I was thinking that we also display a list of regions and layouts there. And we change the wording to say this block is being used in the following regions and layouts. If you delete it, it's going to go away from all these places, basically. But we already have another issue for that, displaying where reusable blocks are being used. Do I have any other? Oh yes, and then Easy, you and Olaf have provided some feedback. So the feedback that I have so far is that maybe the bold text is a bit too much, makes it too noisy. Oh, there's another screenshot that is missing. Can you scroll a bit up? I think I've missed one change as well. Scroll a bit up. No, we discussed that one. A bit up. There should be one before this, which is when you are creating. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, so when you are creating the checkbox, I've changed the wording a bit. So the help text, it's a bit small now. So if you click on it, yeah. So the help text was saying something that I hate in help text. If enabled, it's like if you check this box, it's like you don't need to have that. This block will be made reusable. Well, that's what the checkbox label says. So I find it a bit redundant.
Mhm.
right? So I'm trying to reduce that. And then the gist of it, or the point of it, the useful bit of it is that across different layouts. So what I've done, this bit, which is clarifying, I've actually merged it into the label, and I've sort of like the label is a bit bigger now, but it incorporates what we were trying to say in the first bit of the sentence. Make this block reusable across different layouts, right? And because then the discussion in Zulip pointed out that, hey, we need to know a few things, but all these things were way too lengthy, like it was way too much help text, and it would make it busy. So if you scroll down, you will see what there's another screenshot that shows what, yeah, that's it. So it was a lot of text. So I've chosen the UI pattern that we already use in,
Mhm.
so if you go back to any of the demos that we have live,
You mean like this one?
yes, and try to create, or actually configure, I think it's the homepage layout. Try to edit the homepage layout. Oh, yeah, configure layout. So if you have
Yeah,
hop to that,
yeah.
yep. So you will see that we have this, yeah. So I was thinking that once a person is educated on what reusable means, then they know that, and you can get it out of the way, of their way, because it's lengthy. But if they need a refresher, it's still there. Like
Mhm.
if they come here and they say, oh, I can't remember what this does. Oh, yeah, that's what it does. So if you could now open the PR sandbox, we can actually see that live, not the demo, but if you go in the PR. You needed the password as well. Okay, so
Nice.
if you go through the same process now of adding a block, yep. So you have that show hide thing there.
Right.
So there's three things that we are communicating to the people here, that if you perform this action, then you cannot revert it. Although I have an issue in the queue about an idea of mine on how you not exactly revert it, but you the general idea is that you can revert one of the reusable block instances to be non-reusable anymore, sort of like reverting it.
Well,
Just
it's cloning it, right? You called
sorry?
it, you're cloning it.
Yes, basically cloning that thing and making it a non-reusable block. So it's back to, you know, unlink. It's to the second point. The second point says that if you update something here, it's updated everywhere. So if that other issue that I filed is accepted, then we can remove these 2 points, or the first point actually, which says that it's not reversible, and there will be a way for you to sort of like unlink it from the rest of the reusable block instances, right? And the
Well,
last,
that's not true. I mean, it's still, the reusable block is never reverted. What you're doing
no,
is you're
yes, you're right.
cloning and creating a clone, which
Yeah,
is a different
and
thing.
replacing it with a clone. Yes,
Well,
yes,
you're not
exactly.
replacing it, you're adding a clone.
No, the idea was that you would remove the reusable instance and replace it with, on the fly, with a non-reusable clone of that.
Oh,
So that it's a,
I misunderstood you. I thought that you would be leaving your reusable block and cloning it so you could move on with your specific use.
no, the idea here is that you created a block, then you converted it into a reusable, and you've added that to a bunch of layouts. But then at some point you say, all right, I changed my mind about one of these layouts, so I need to make one of these reusable blocks in a specific layout non-reusable. So you need to actually flip the situation, like clone and replace the reusable with a non-reusable clone of it, so that you can now update it without updating it everywhere on the site. You just update that instance.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of using semantics here because you're talking about within one layout, you're
Yep.
cloning it and you're using the clone.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
Right,
so the reusable still exists out in the rest
Exactly.
of the world. Of the
Right.
site.
right. And this is all technically possible now. It's just a lot of like manual work to like
Yeah.
copy stuff around.
Yeah, you would need to copy the text in the title, put it in a new custom block, and then remove the old block and keep that in place. So yeah, instead of doing all that manual thing, you would just do it in one press of a button, or maybe two, just really quick. And then the last bullet point there is basically the bit of the text that says you can edit this here or in the custom blocks, which was in the previous help text. So that's it. So these are the changes there. Yeah, and as I said, I'm looking for feedback on the wording, whether things should be notices or status message, info messages,
Mhm.
whether the text should be bold or not. Basically here, I'm stating 3 facts of, the action of making this block reusable. And I think that the 2 most important ones is that this action as it is now is not reversible, and that if you update content in one place, you will be updating it everywhere. So
Right.
yeah, that's it.
My quick feedback is I think what you already got, that there's too much bold here, right? Maybe you just want a couple of words bold instead of whole sentences.
Right.
It does. I should spend a little bit more time testing the feature myself. It feels a little bit like we're adding a lot of tech, like that when somebody's made a block reusable, they know they should have a pretty good idea what that means. And that the main thing is just to really highlight make sure that when you're editing a block, that it's very clear that it's reusable. That's what your whole your info message is to remind them this is a reusable block. And I wonder if you need that much more text, if you need, if that text needs to be that long, or if you just need to know, remember this is a reusable block, assuming that they're going to remember what that means.
Well, don't you
So,
think that hiding
sorry.
it does that?
I'm thinking, yes, in this case, it does. I'm thinking about in the PR. Oops, gotta go
In the
back.
issue, if you go back,
Yeah, go back to the PR. I'm thinking like this one. Like I don't know. I mean, I'd have to reuse this, but I wonder if all of that text is really necessary. Especially if you explain it, in the reusable block here, and then all you need to do here is just remind them. Remember, this is a reusable block, or because I can see where you don't want people to forget that it's reusable. But I don't know if you need it, like if every time I come to any reusable block, I need this entire paragraph of text.
yeah, that's
Right.
That's one thing. Yeah, we could reduce actually, because we don't. There are other places in the UI where you can achieve the same thing in a couple of places, and we don't say that, hey, you can do this here and also there. Like people know that there's a
Mhm.
listing, right? So that can go away. It's just that I chose to retain it because
Right.
it was in the previous help text.
Well,
Right.
the other I suppose you could do in this info block is use this, the see more kind of strategy.
The technique, yeah.
So that it says this is a reusable block, and then there's details that you can open up if you've forgotten the
Right,
implications of that.
Right.
But I don't need to see this whole paragraph every time on every block that's reusable.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's it depends. Like I kind of see that block, for anyone who knows it, you can just carry on down. But for me, it seems like this is an area where content creators may also come, not just developers.
Yeah, very well.
So I kind of felt that it's good for content creators to be reminded of this, and I didn't find it to be too verbose, but maybe it could be shortened.
Yep. I like the idea that Tim threw out that it can also use the show hide thing. And just for context, if you go to any of the other pages, the actual live things, and go into the layout listing page. Yeah, so I'm
Like
basically
this?
going for that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this turned out to be another thing where people were getting confused because of how things work in Drupal and how it works in Backdrop. And it felt that it needed enough text to explain things. But at the same time, we didn't want to clutter the UI too much. And that's why I used a similar approach to that. Not the same, but a similar approach. It's like the text is
Mhm.
there if you need a reminder. And once someone reads that, they know how layouts work, but they
Right.
don't need that in front of the face all the time. It's still
Yeah.
there if they need it. Yeah. So maybe we can compromise with that. Like, I like the idea that Tim said, but I'll wait for feedback from others. Just leave the, hey, this block is reusable, and then have a link that says, what does this mean? Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Okay. That was a very detailed description of this issue. Is it, so basically the status of this right now is you're just looking for more feedback?
Yes, I just played with a UI with what I thought was the what you call it, the annoyance that I reported a few years back, and I said,
Okay.
look, let's do something about it. This is what I'm up with. But if anyone has additional or alternatives, just chime
So-
in and say.
Somebody should put a link to this discuss the YouTube once we've finished it. A link to this YouTube and say, if you want a detailed description of this, you can watch this YouTube video. Anyways, put that in the issue. Okay.
And then let's move, because we hogged the half of the meeting or the entirety of the meeting with that issue. Then the next issue that which is related to that is 6242. Let's just go quickly through it.
Right, and this is what you're doing, isn't it? Or nope, 62. Isn't this the one we just did?
Yes, no, that was an older one. It was a 4108. This is a different one.
Okay.
So this one is just to add. So if we take advantage of, because rather than explaining it, you can show it. If you go into a live instance, so if you go to reports and then blocks or something like that, blocks, yep. So this lists not only reusable blocks, but whatever block you have on the side, and it has a usage column, right? So it tells you in which region and which layout it's being used. But if you go to structure and then blocks,
Like
custom
custom
blocks,
blocks?
that's it. Yep. You can't know in which layouts this block is being used. So I thought that maybe we can add a column that actually does that for custom blocks there. So that
Mhm.
when you're configuring or editing or updating it, you know that you're updating a lot of places, but which places, right? That's it.
Okay, it seems like a smart idea.
All right. Then next issue is
We don't have a PR for this one yet, right? You just,
No, not
this
yet.
is a new issue, okay.
yeah, and maybe we can merge it with the other one. I'm not sure. Just yeah. Or if you feel that some of the changes that I had in the other one, the one that we're discussing before, needs to be split out, also let me know. Or merge
Sure,
with
my
this
gut
one.
would be not to merge it, because I feel like the other one's getting a lot of little details, and adding more details will just might block it.
Yeah, this will fill there. This one will be like a follow-up, because remember how the previous one had a confirmation message with a warning when you were trying to delete a reusable
Yeah.
block? If we have a function that provides the list of regions, then we can throw that in the warning.
Yeah, I think this should be a separate issue.
Cool. All right, so if we move to the next one is 5791, which was one that I hoped would get in the previous release, 91. And this is, we're basically trying to provide an easy way for people to answer when people come to us for support, to report a bug or something that doesn't work as expected. One of the most usual questions that we ask is, what version of Backdrop are you on? What version of PHP you have? Which modules you have? And we had the idea of providing a place where people could just copy paste easily things and provide it either in the issue or in the forum so that people can help them. And this is what this issue does. I will most likely need to rebase it. I was hoping for. Sorry.
What is the status? I mean, did it not get in because there was still discussion about details?
Because I vanished. I think that we said we're going to work on. We had a long weekend, including holidays, to get things done before the release, and then I vanished as well, and people maybe didn't have time, so it just didn't get in. So it's super close, but it needs code review and testing. So if you scroll to the bottom and then slowly up to find the latest screenshot that we have of the feature, not that one. I think it's this one. Yep. So the feedback that I had is that we need to remove the copy to clipboard and download as text file links that are at the top. And I've made separate issues for that because some people said, no, we shouldn't be doing that in core. Some others thought that they were useful. So we filed separate issues and we can discuss those there. And I think that what Nate left as a sort of like a feedback or a request was that maybe we can have a link that says raise a ticket and then an issue, and then that takes you to GitHub and fills in the information automatically or something like that. But that feels like a follow-up to me now as well. Okay. So that's where I remember that this was at. We just need code review and testing. That's it.
Okay.
That's pretty close. Then
I opened that issue. Thanks. About a year.
Yeah, and there was another one that we closed as a duplicate. It was similar to this.
Yeah.
And I think it was to provide a listing in the reports or something. A view with the modules, something like that. But along the discussions, we decided to close that as a duplicate because it would be more like easier if we provided a plain text version of the modules that people can just copy and paste. Sure. That was the consensus. So we focused on this issue rather than the old one.
Right. We do have a view that with this recipe, with the recipes, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops, no, we need to do that. Install our recipe. We have the enabled modules report recipe. So you can use, and let's just test this.
Yep. And again, this is very helpful, but instead of saying to people, oh, install another module, which will
I agree. Yeah, I agree it's better as a core feature. But for that view, we do have the recipe still. So if somebody wants to create a view.
Yeah, if someone wants it, yes, I get it. Yep.
Okay.
Then
so this is for Izzy and Joseph. This is what the recipe does. It just gives you this. All it does is give you a list of all the modules. There's not the same amount of detail, but it does let you filter it by contrib or core modules.
Yeah, I did take a look at that recipe, and my first response to it was that it was not enough information. Especially. I have the same difficulty actually with the list of available report of available modules. When people are using dev releases, those are not clearly identified, and the same on the enabled. And there are several examples that happens a lot in all of Drupal, where the release takes a while to catch up with the development that's gone on. So if we're trying to provide something that's useful for supporting a debugging situation, you need more than just the actual name of the module that's enabled. You need to know what version, and you need to know if it's beyond the release version.
Okay. Are you saying if somebody's enabled and done a dev module that wasn't released, you want that indicated here?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I did, I don't know if I just started it as a conversation, and haven't actually taken the time to articulate it as an issue. I'm getting to the point where I feel the need to do that. If you're on a Drupal site, for instance, and you install a dev version, it will show you both the release with its date and the
Yes.
dev with its date. So you can actually see how far apart you are.
Yes. So with us, a dev version is always a dev version. It doesn't have a release, and we have an issue for that though. I'll try to find it, and so we have an issue for that.
Okay.
So look for, that would be the first thing to do, and that's come to one of these meetings, and if Greg is here, ask him what the existing issue is. Or you can look around a little yourself, or just create an issue. Don't worry too much about creating a duplicate. If it's a duplicate, we can close it later.
Yeah, I can search for it, but Greg can also let me know if he stumbles
Yes.
on it
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
But I think, Izzy, that you are comfortable, so I don't need to say this, but do feel free to open each issues like that. That's really valuable. Greg and I in particular value that, and we do it all the time. Every
Right.
time we have any kind of idea, we just open an issue, and then, if people don't like it, we can close the issue. We don't
Yeah.
try to vet our issues ahead of time or anything.
And if it is a duplicate, like at some point, GitHub had this nice feature when they revoked it afterwards. When you were typing an issue title, it would suggest duplicates. But don't be afraid if you file a duplicate. Someone will come and say, "Hey, this is a duplicate of that," so I'm closing it. It's not something that we sort of like say, "Oh, don't raise duplicates." If you do a search and you can't find anything, just file an issue for it. By the way, the issue number for that is 664. It's a 3-digit one. It was filed back in 2015. So there's some discussion there. I can't remember the status of the discussion, but yeah. And of course, it was raised by yours truly.
664.
Yes.
Okay.
3-digit.
I've got that. I see that now.
Yep.
Is this just for core or for contrib?
It's gonna be for everything. Yeah.
Core as well as contrib.
Yeah, which is another problem. So if you go to the pull requests, I think that it's more obvious as well, because the status to any pull request, not that. So if you go to the status page of any pull request sandbox, you will see that it reports it as a 127 dev, but then it doesn't give you an option to update something. It gives you as a warning, and then it I can't remember what it was. Oh no, I remember now what it was. Maybe if you install the 1.x version, it urges you to update to the latest stable, saying that that's more recent, when that might not be the case. So something like that happens.
Sure.
And the reason for that is because our dev versions do not have a timestamp, so to say, that goes along in their .info file that can sort of like help to identify it. I think that if I recall correctly, at some point we had a discussion and Nate pointed out that there might be a way to do that via our packaging, but yeah, I don't know, I can't remember. I need to have a look at that issue. But I remember that there were some technical difficulties around it. So otherwise it would have been done if it was that easy.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the fact that there is no date on the on it. You have to kind of deduce that by the latest commit.
Yep. That is if you are pulling it via Git. If you downloaded a zip file, maybe you just don't have a way to do anything about it. Yeah, so my list of UX issues has multiple ones that I haven't read through. I'm gonna skip the ones that are mine, and then there's one that
we're kind of out of time.
Okay, yeah.
So
if
you have something short and quick, you can say it, but let's not just start another issue.
No, I see one by bug folder, and it's ready to be committed, but I haven't looked at it. It's marked as unread, so I need to keep up. It won't be short, in other words. I need to keep up with that.
The only thing I could say that is short is when I was looking at this the issue we've gone over, in terms of wording, it's been my habit to try to make it impersonal in the sense of removing references like you can do.
Right.
And I don't know if Backdrop has any philosophy around that, but I find myself tending to try and word it more generically. It can be done, or whatever, right? Rather than having a you or an I or whatever in there. But you can't always, wording it like that isn't always easy.
Right.
But I don't know if it matters to the Backdrop community.
We don't have a set policy for it, but it sounds reasonable. And if you have a suggestion, just put it in the issue. And also in this specific issue, because I've raised the pull request, don't let my fluency in English fool you, because my English is not as good as yours. If you have something to suggest, just do suggest it, and then I'll make the changes. Because what you just said sounds reasonable to me. Yeah.
Well, I've done that where I could, but like I say, it's not always easy to do it everywhere. Right?
Izzy,
One thing.
if you're
Yeah,
talking
one thing-
about the language that's actually going to go into core, I think that is something we think about. And frequently, Gregory will create a PR, and then Jen and I will come in and rewrite his text and improve it. And don't be afraid to make little text change suggestions. You know, Olaf also is good at that. Like Jen, Olaf, and I. There's a few people that really take the time to look at and give feedback on the specific.
So what we are looking for is, like, if there's any room for ambiguation and people confusing things with other things. And also we try to be very rigid about not using the term user unless absolutely necessary. We use the term people or user accounts if we refer to one or the other. So this is one sort of like pet peeve that we sort of like have I'm not sure if it's written down as a policy, but we're very rigid about that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Others are joining for the dev meeting, so maybe we should just wrap
Yeah,
this up.
let's end this meeting. Thanks, everybody. We're just finishing the UX meeting.
All right.
So, no,